Hi everyone, welcome to today's tutorial, and we're going to be seeing how we can build our own random quotes generator. So just to point out, this is going to be done with Python, just pure Python, no extra. And again, this is on easy mode and obviously beginners friendly. So I know most of the features here and functionalities basically here are tailored or tilted towards JavaScript. So we're not going to be looking at the JavaScript side of things. We're going to be looking at it from a Python perspective, basically, which means that some things will not apply to us in this scenario. Things such as design, blah blah blah, those boring things, will not apply to us. But anyways, we're going to still follow suit and achieve the requirements. Anyways, so again, random quotes generator, and you can see here it says the project aims to develop a simple web and mobile application. Again, this is just Python, so we're not going to be doing any web thing or mobile thing here, just Python that generates and displays random quotes to users. Each time a user interacts with the application, a new random quote is fetched and displayed. The quotes will be pulled from a predefined database or API and will cover various categories such as motivation, humor, wisdom, and more. Users will also be able to share quotes on social media or copy them to their clipboard. The application will focus on simplicity and delivering inspirational or thought-provoking quotes quickly and easily. All right. So basically, we're just going to have like an API that we can pull quotes from and basically just display the quotes to the user. And then obviously we have some requirements here. Display quotes, quote generation. I'm not going to like spend too much time reading through the whole requirements. You can take your time to do that. I've already gone through the requirements and I know exactly what is required when it comes to building this with Python. I'm going to dive right into it and yeah, just basically start. So I just want to put this out here that if you do not have a basic knowledge on Python, I would suggest you check out our Python course and familiarize yourself with the Python topics available and just build from there until you cover all the topics and modules in Python. So you're confident that yes, you can build your own Python project. So we're just going to dive right in again for the 100th time. And I have my file called random underscore quotes.py, which is the Python file. And this is inside of my directory called project. Again, if you obviously want to have projects or build a Python project, I would recommend you have like a central repository where you have all your projects stored in. So you can show your friends or just make sure you're safe in that directory. Obviously, any directory of your choosing. Mine is in the project directory where I store all my projects regarding to MB projects. Okay, so again, depends on you and what you like. I'm using VS Code as my code editor. If you have something different, as far as you know how to navigate through that code editor, that is fine. For me, I love VS Code and I will be making use of VS Code in this tutorial. If you have Atom or Sublime or Notepad++ or any other code editor that you find fancy to use, that's fine. Me, I'm going to be making use of my perfect old VS Code. Okay, so I already have this file opened up in VS Code. So if I should just click here, if I click on VS Code, you can see this file is opened up already in VS Code, random underscore quote.py. And again, just to say this, if you do not have basic knowledge Python, I would suggest you check out our Python course so that you can understand what modules are doing, what functions are doing, what classes are doing, what is a variable, what is a loop, different kind of loops, conditional statements, try and except blocks. So you get to understand what these things are doing and how they play a major role in building applications or basically applying logic and within the Python ecosystem. All right, so I'm going to import two libraries, and these libraries I'm going to import do not come with Python natively. They come separately, so you have to install them separately on your PC or inside of your virtual environment. Anyhow, you're doing this project. But the first one is going to be request, so we'll just do imports, and then I'll just say request. So request is how we communicate with APIs within Python. Basically, that's just what request is doing for you. And to have request installed on your PC, all you have to do is pip install, and then you just say request. So next module we're going to import or library we're going to import is Paperclip. So Paperclip again does not come natively with Python. You would have to install it separately. And to do that, you just say pip install and Paperclip. All right. So now we're going to create a function to fetch random quotes from the API. So function to fetch a random quote from the API, no AOP, API, right? So we're going to define a function and start with def, and then we're going to call this fetch underscore random underscore quotes, then brackets, open bracket close, obviously no parameter, and then we're going to indent this and start with a try block. All right, so we're just going to have a variable here called response, and we are going to say requests. So requests dot get, and this is where we're going to be calling the not HPI, the API rather. This is the endpoint, and it's https API dot quotable dot io and then random, right? So this is where we're going to be calling that API from, and that's the endpoint basically. So we're going to check if some things are correct, and that will be response.status code. So if the status code is 200, sorry, that's not that shouldn't be that should be a string. So if the status code is 200, meaning that if it's actually if it's an okay response, like if the fetch was okay, we want to display the data. So we're just going to return data, or we're going to save the response in a JSON format, and then we're going to point the data variable to it. So we're going to say JSON dot response rather dot JSON, right? Okay, so we're going to say return, and obviously in Python would read JSON as a dictionary. So we're going to say quotes, and here we have data. So we're going to access the content from the data, and we're also going to access the author as well too. So author data, and we are going to get the author. Okay. All right. So else here we're going to have print, and we're going to say if there was an error with fetching whatever we were trying to fetch from the quotable endpoint, we're just going to say error fetching quotes or quotes, try again later, basically. All right. So we're going to return none. All right. So here we have excepts block. So except there is an exception basically with the request. So we're gonna say request dot exceptions dot request exception. So if there is an exception or if there's something just off with the whole thing, right? Or if this try block doesn't execute properly, then it means there was an exception somewhere. We want to return that exception and store it as E, and we want to print an error occurred, and we want to store which now imputes the content of E basically. Error has occurred. I'm just trying to look through it very well to see where I'm missing this. So this should not be here. Actually, this should be inside of hold on. This should be inside of here, not outside. Okay. And again, we're going to return none, right? So just a very quick one. What this function is doing is simply calling this API endpoint and just getting codes from the API endpoint. If the codes comes true, we just want to return the codes. If it doesn't come true, we want to have this error come up on the screen. If there is an issue with the whole API thingy, we want to get to the issue and then basically just print the error out generally. So we're going to create another function here, and then we're just going to say function to display the menu. All right, so just going to call this display underscore menu. All right, obviously it's going to be empty, and we're going to have print here. Obviously, this is going to be welcome, or you know what? Let's just leave a new line, and here we'll just say welcome to the quotes generator, and then we can just say written in Python, right? So we have print, and let's just create the options here. Here we'll just say generate a new random quote. All right, so print. Next one is going to be copy the quotes to clipboard. So I don't know if I explained this paperclip very well, but what this paperclip is doing, I don't think I explained, but let me just go back again here. So what this paperclip is doing is we're just basically going to copy what you have, as an output of something or as an evaluation of something and just attach it to your to your clipboard on your system. That's what this paperclip is doing or would do for you, right? So print and when the user inputs 3, we just want to say exit, right? So everything looks good so far, and this is how it's going to be for display menu. So now we're going to create the main application function, right? We're going to call this run quotes generator. Obviously, we're not expecting anything. And we'll have a variable here called current quotes, and then we're going to set that to none. All right, so we're going to create a while loop and say while true. All right, so we're going to display, so while true, we're going to display the menu, which obviously is this menu, right? So it's going to, so what's, is contained here would obviously show up there, right? So we're going to create another variable here called choice, and we're going to get the input of the user, or from the user rather, and we're going to say choose an option, and the option obviously is going to be from 1 to 3, right? And then we'll have to give them space to input their choice. So we're going to say if choice plus 1, we're going to say current underscore quotes is, and then we're going to fetch random quotes. So fetch random quotes obviously is this menu here, and once we call this function, it's just going to go over here. It's going to go to this endpoint and try to get a quote for us basically. So we're going to say if current quotes. All right, so if there is a current quotes, so if we actually got a quote, we want to print the quotes, and we'll just say print, and we can just use f string here basically, and here we can just say current. All right, so that's something here we can just say quotes, right? And this is going to be, we can say current quotes, right? And we're going to access the variables inside, and we're going to say quotes, which is this one here, and print again here. We can say f string, and here we can see author. Just trying to arrange everything right. Author, and author might just be current quotes, and here we'll get it author as well. So that's how we do that. So we're gonna do an elif block. So elif choice. So elif the choice is 2, right? So say if current quotes. So if the choice is 2, what happens? We're gonna copy to clipboard, right? So if there's a current quote, we're gonna say quotes text, right? And it's going to be an f string here, and it's going to be current quotes. Sorry, let's do that. So current quotes, and we're going to access the variable inside it called quotes, and we're just going to say dash here. No, sorry, we're going to come outside here and say dash, and we are just going to put the author's name here, and that's going to be squiggly bracket here, squiggly bracket, right? And we're just going to say current quotes, and then we're just going to get the author as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to say paperclip, right? Dot copy, and here's going to be quotes text, and we're going to print your quotes has been copied to the clipboard, right? Okay. Else we can just say print. So else, like we don't have it. So else there is no current quotes. What we can just say basically is print. And let me take my cursor back here. Generate a quotes first. Generate a quotes first, yeah? Okay. So we can do elif choice. So elif choice is 3. What we can do is print and just say thank you for your time. Here we'll just say goodbye. And we're going to break out of this loop. Now remember 3 basically means exit, right? So we're going to break out of that loop. And else, if the user has been entering rubbish, we're just going to say, just do else final block. And here we're going to say print, you need to enter something valid, basically, right? And we are going to come over here and say run the app. And the app is obviously going to be run quote generator. So I'm going to explain everything I've done from the first line to the second line. Okay, so line one basically says import request, and request obviously is how we interact with APIs in Python. This will just allow us to be able to fetch data from an API. Then line two, we have import paperclip. So paperclip basically is how we get to copy something from Python shell to our clipboard. And this is the way you can install request by saying pip install request. For paperclip, you just say pip install paperclip. Now here I created a function in line five and I call the function fetch random quotes. Now this fetch random quotes function, what it's doing is it's actually fetching the random codes from this API endpoint here. And then if everything goes fine, which will be signified by the status code of 200, it wants to store the response in obviously JSON format and then assign it to a variable called data. And then we're able to return the data and the content, data and the author, right? Then if obviously something went wrong with us trying to fetch these quotes, it's just going to tell us that error fetching quotes, please try again and returning this whole thing to none. So when we call this function and this error occurs, obviously this function would not return anything. Then except there has been something weird with trying to, except this try block fails, obviously it bounces to this except block, right? Now, if it bounces to this accept block, then it obviously means that something went wrong, trying to access this API, blah, 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 right? So we need to just get that whole explanation or error message and just put it as E. And then we'll just print an error occurred, and then we're just going to, push out the kind of error that occurred. And obviously, we're going to return none. So if the final verdict hits accept, and that is the final verdict when we try to access an API, then obviously nothing will be returned when you try to invoke this function. Now we have another function here which starts from line 19 and it's called display menu function. Now the display menu function obviously displays things on your shell based on this print function. That's all it does. Now we have the run quote generator which obviously starts at line 26. Now this run quote generator is what brings everything together at the end of the day. So we have current quote set to none, right? And then we have a while loop that will spin for an infinite number of times if we don't break out of it. So now we have display menu. Obviously, this is a function that we're calling, and this is the function. So this will just display obviously these things that are here, and then we're able to make a choice. So the choice you have to make is either one, two, or three. So let's say you enter one. So if your choice is one, what then happens when you're sure? Hold on. If choice is one, current quote. I'm just trying to do something. So if choice is one, current quote. I think I made a mistake here. So I need to push this back. I need to push. I need to push this back, and I need to push this back. All right. I think I made some mistakes there. All right. So okay. If the choice is one, we need to set the current quotes to whatever is generated from this function. And we're going to print out the quote and we're going to print out the author as well, so in two different lines. And if our choice is two, choice obviously means we want to copy the random quotes to clipboard. And we're just going to get the quotes and store it in a variable called quotes text. Once we put it in a variable, we're going to use the paperclip library and then copy this to our clipboard. So we're able to paste it anywhere. And then we're just going to print your quote has been copied to the clipboard. Else, if it wasn't copied to the clipboard, we're just going to say generate a quote first, basically, right? From the print block. Okay, just hold on. I need to move this further down here. Okay, yes, looks good. All right, so that's it for the choice two. Then for choice three, it's just going to say thank you for your time, goodbye. Then it breaks out of the loop. Else, if we keep entering rubbish or something, it just tells us you need to enter something valid and continues the loop. Okay, so on line 52, here we just have the run quotes generator, which is obviously this function here. We can now get random quotes and then see how it looks like. So as you click on this play button here, you're going to see up here, and you're going to see welcome to the quote generator written in Python. So we have the first option here that says generate a new random quote. Second option says copy the quote to clipboard, and number three says exit. Now, if I do something like number two and I press enter, now you can see generate a quote first, right? Obviously, it just telling me that I need to generate a quote first before I can actually copy it to the clipboard, right? If I should do three, three obviously means exit, and you can see thank you for your time, goodbye, right? So CLS to clear things up, and I'm going to run this again, and then you can see this appears on my screen. Now, if I enter one, one is to get the quotes. Let's see what happens when it hits that API. All right, let's just hold on 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. It's fetching the. All right, so now it's telling us an error has occurred, and I can see blah 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 blah. All right, So this just has to do with connection. So it's trying to say, oh, we need an SSL connection for you to be able to get this quotes basically. And since we're doing this in a testing environment, it might be difficult to set up all those logic. So what we can do, we can come over to this response side, this line 7, and then we're going to add verify here, and then we're just going to say false. So this verify equals to false just tells Python and then tells API endpoints, don't worry, you don't have to make any check with SSL. This is for testing purpose. You can allow us get quotes basically, right? That's all that is going on there. So I should just open this up and clear things out again. And if I should run this code one more time and it tells me this, I'll press 1 to get a new quote. All right, so let's see. Now it's saying current quotes. Okay, let's see what happens there. Let's see what happens there. Quotes, current quotes. Okay, so this happened on line 36. So let's see what happened on line 36. Let's see. Current quotes, line 36. Let's see what happened there. All right, so quotes, current quotes. Okay, how do I get that show back? So key error. Quotes, right? So it's saying I have a key error, I have a key error there. So here it says content. All right, so it shouldn't be quotes. I believe it should be contents, right? I don't know, it's weird, but let's see. Contents. Oh, I see. Oh my God, I see what's going on. This is S here, not. Yeah, that's what's going on actually. It's wrong key. Okay, let's try again. No, not this, not the shell. Let's run this again and let's just clear this out. Run this one more time and obviously tells us this. So press 1 and let's see what happens. So fingers crossed. And yeah, it got a code for us, although it just tells us, oh, we need to use more security to access the API. But that's fine. This is just testing purpose. So, anyways, we got a quote, and then the quote is prejudice is a burden that confuses the past, threatens the future, and renders the present inaccessible. And then the author obviously is Maya Angelou, right? And we can obviously copy this quote to the clipboard by pressing 2 and then we'll hit enter. And then it says your quote has been copied to the clipboard. So to know it has been copied to the clipboard, we can just come over here and comment and then we'll just paste this in here. You can see this has been obviously pasted, which means it was actually copied to the clipboard, right? So let's run this again. CLS to clear things out and we hit this again. Obviously we can, we're going to get a new awesome quote, right? Let's just wait for this to run. And then it says the fewer rules a coach has, the fewer rules there are for players to break. And then it says author John Maiden, right? So okay, let's say one more quote. We'll enter number 1 again, and you can see here it says, let's see. All right, so quote says, "Grave can be the garden of compassion. If you keep your heart open through everything, your pain can become your greatest ally in your life search for love and wisdom." And the author here is Rumi. So if I should enter something random here and that says chili, it just tells me you need to enter something valid. And if I'm tired of seeing quotes, I can just do 3 and exit out of here. So it tells me thank you for your time and goodbye. So yes, that's how to build your own random quote generator using Python. Vanilla Python, nothing extra, nothing imported from any other place except from the libraries we're depending on, which are request and paperclip basically. And yes, folks, this is how you can build your own random codes generator with Python, vanilla Python. Obviously, you can leverage on this, add different layers to this, make it more robust, add your own functionality and feature. And let's see what you have. Let's see what you've been able to accomplish. But for now, I'll leave you to code and I will see you in the next tutorial. Thank you for your time.